Welcome everybody to another culture chat. We are so honored for you to be here with us. We're so grateful that you took the time out of your busy day to spend with us and to be in community with us, to share knowledge, to support one another. My name is Nathan Hall, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. If this is your first culture chat, we're glad that you can make it out. These sessions are about holistic professional development, specifically through a racialized lens, covering things from resume building to mental health, physical health, everything in between to help us to live more successful, fulfilling lives and careers. So we're so grateful, as I said, for you to be here. I also want to let you all know, if you don't know, about our check-ins. So 2 times a month, we have these check-ins, these virtual meetup groups for racialized professionals, to share stories, to connect, to offer support, to network. And so we would love to have you come out. We have two happening this month. We will drop the link in the chat so you're able to register for that. We also want to let you just be aware of our newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you're hearing about all of the things that are going on in the community, I just dropped that link for you there on to subscribe. So you never miss any of the updates or information that we're trying to share with all of you today. So again, we're grateful for you to be here. Now, something in a lot of the conversations that I've been having with people, a common refrain that I hear from people is I should, right? I should be further along in my career by now. I should have gotten that promotion. I should be making more moves. I should be doing more. I should feel more fulfilled. But instead, their careers or lives are often now filled with this guilt, this self-judgment, these unmet expectations that only creates stress, anxiety, a sense of stagnation. And too many of us have internalized, other people's definitions of success. We let their paths, their wins, their lives distract us from our own. And so we're left asking, who am I? What do I want? What's truly meaningful to me? And these might seem like simple questions, but for many of us, they're the hardest to answer. And that's why I'm excited to bring in our special guest today, someone who helps people wrestle with these types of questions to come out stronger. She is a seasoned leader with over 2 decades of experience across various industries, including insurance, where she has thrived in operations and expanded into broad leadership roles. Her passion for mentorship and sponsorship has inspired countless professionals, and her advocacy in diversity has helped shape more inclusive workplaces. Most recently, she's launched Mindhaven Group, a coaching and consulting firm dedicated to mental health, leadership, youth empowerment, and navigating life's big transitions. So please join me in welcoming the incredible Michelle Gardner. Welcome.
Wow, thank you. What an introduction, bringing you to all of my meetings.
So grateful to have you here.
Thank you.
So maybe we can just start off the conversation with, how did you get here? How did your kind of career unfold? What were some of those major turning points and pivot points during your career that has led you to where you are now?
Yeah, thank you, Nathan. I'm super excited to be here. Incredibly impressed with the work that you're doing and all that you're doing for our community. So my journey hasn't been a straight path. I've navigated along the way, have made lots of mistakes, and I'm really here to share my lived and learned experiences. So my journey began with a deep sense of responsibility. The daughter of immigrant parents who came to Canada to have a better opportunity. And so with that, that instilled a deep sense of responsibility. There were powerful expectations that failure was not an option. I had to sort of navigate within that space. So whenever I was faced with a challenge, I was really figure it out and make it work. So whatever that challenge was, I began my career in a call center, and I always share that humble experience. I worked a 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift for 5 years while putting myself through university. My parents could not afford to pay for university.
Mm.
So deprived was the name of the game for me. And so that for me, what that experience taught me was resilience, managing schedules, sacrifice, and discipline. And those are all key foundations that I actually ring true for me today. And I
Mm.
always kind of go back to those humble beginnings because I always say, whether it be to my teams or to individuals that I'm coaching, that I never forget where I came from. Very, very humble beginnings. So in the early stages of my career, success was defined by stability, having a full-time job, gaining respect, and establishing like a strong foundation. That's what it was for me at the time. But kind of going back to your intro in terms of what you do within our community, as a Black woman, often being the only one in the room meant having to work twice as hard to prove myself, to prove that I had, the ability beyond that ability. And we'll talk about that certainly a lot later. Over time, I moved into many leadership roles where I had the experience to kind of lead various teams across Canada, the US, and offshore teams. But it also meant a space for me to work with others, especially those that didn't have the traditional seat at the table. So that's where it kind of gave me the opportunity to kind of go into that coaching and mentorship role. And that journey has led to my leadership philosophy, grounded on empathy, perseverance, and a belief of that success is about who you want to become.
Mm. Okay, thank you for that. You had mentioned the old adage there, working twice as hard. And then you were kind of talking about the evolution of your philosophy and being who you want to be. Have you found that adage has remained true, or was it more of an internal pressure or community-based pressure that was being applied to you that didn't necessarily reflect the realities? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I
So,
do, I
yeah, what
do,
are your thoughts
I
on
do.
that?
So my thoughts, I actually feel it was just an internal pressure. Um, you know, again, coming from immigrant parents, it was, and I actually thought about this quite a bit. So, you went to school, you got a grade, you got a B, and it was, well, how come you didn't get a B plus? You got an A, how come you? So it's really about that constant achievement. And so I just felt that I had to do better, be better, work harder. And those had their own sort of ramifications
Yeah.
in terms of, burnout and stress. And so a lot of it was internal to also kind of piggyback on that as well, I do feel that there was a societal pressure because I was often the only one, and so I didn't have the ability to kind of look to others for that support. That support kind of came internal, so a little
Mm,
bit of both.
okay. The what was I gonna say? I completely lost my thought there. When we were
Okay.
talking about the um, that internal pressure that is being applied and how that shifts. I completely lost where I was going with that. Let's move on, and it'll come back
Okay,
to me. I know it will.
that's okay. It's all
So
good.
did you ever feel like, in those early stages that you were chasing someone else's definition of success and, what it was the parents or maybe the broader communities that you are a part of? Can you talk about that pressure that you felt to be successful?
So absolutely. Um, Much of my career, the success that I was chasing, it wasn't mine. I actually felt that it was I was wanting to do well for my parents. Back to the stability, immigrant parents and always wanting to kind of strive for the best. Internally, I realized that success, it was really about the achievements. I kind of go back to the grade school analogy that I gave earlier. So I was chasing the titles, I was chasing the accolades, I was chasing, certificates, awards, like that next achievement. And I was stuck in the mindset of, okay, I'm going to get that promotion. I'm going to feel successful. I'm going to do that course. I'm going to feel successful. Universe, like all of these sort of milestones. But I have to be honest, I achieved them and they were great,
Mm,
but the fulfillment didn't last. It didn't last long. And it faded very quickly. And I really had a shift. In my career, I had three deeply personal chapters in my life that has impacted the shift. And this is why I'm on this quest right now. So very personal, but I'm happy to share. So first, my father suffered a massive stroke.
mm,
and that left him paralyzed and required full-time personal care. That was devastating. He was fine. He wasn't sick. It was sudden. And then 2 years later, it was grieving his death. Devastating. I'm a daddy's girl.
Mm,
And then immediately after that, stepping into the role of a full-time caregiver for my mother. So these three things have to say, there's actually no words, but it has caused this shift in terms of my thinking. And you know that saying, tomorrow's not a promise?
mm,
That's where I'm at right now. So I'm no longer chasing somebody else's goals around success. It's how I define them. And what my feedback to everyone, it's personal. I mean, I'm happy to share mine, and that's why I'm here, but mine are very personal. They're how I've defined for myself. So I don't take things for granted. I do things that are very important to me, and I spend a lot of time doing that. So that's how I would answer that question. But I've realized that I'm giving permission to myself to do the things that are important to me.
mm. One of the words that you said previously that stuck out to me was the success was defined by stability, right? And I think oftentimes that there's so much in the world we can't control, right? But if I just work harder, right, that's our way of feeling like we are contributing to that stability, right? That I'll just keep my head down and just keep working. That's how I maintain stability, and then tying that into those three life moments you have that are completely destabilizing, right? It's like no matter how hard I worked, I
Correct.
couldn't have stopped this. No matter how much I grinded and burnt myself out. And you come to that realization of I can't control my life. I can't control all of these things as much as I want to. And it's not a matter of me working even harder. And I think there is some liberation that comes with this acceptance of I can't control the world all around me, right? And it's like, let me do the things that are important to me and meaningful to me instead of trying to just take control of everything, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I would add to that, I had these life-changing events in my life that I've shared very personally. But even before that, I will admit I'm a workaholic. Everybody that knows me, everybody's been on my teams. I have been that workaholic, and it has led to burnout. It has led to stress. It has led to anxiety. All things that I would not have shared before. Because again, my background, so you don't share your weaknesses. You don't share your vulnerability. And what I've learned is I was doing all of these things to get better productivity and to get all those accolades. It wasn't fulfilling. And it wasn't necessarily that I was being more productive either. So you need to find that balance. And the other thing that I would say is that as I have elevated my careers and have had different leadership experiences, it's not about me. It's about surrounding people that don't have the skills that I have. And it's also about my team actually succeeding. So it's less about me. And so once that shift and that pressure removed, like I feel like a completely different person.
Hmm.
How I lead
No.
is different. How I coach is completely
Yeah.
different.
Is that are you a workaholic or is this just a trauma response, right? And like
Ah,
this is how we're reacting. And so, I think a lot of us we take on this identity as I am these things when in reality we're just responding to this environment. We don't feel safe, we don't feel secure enough. I feel like the rug's going to be pulled underneath me. I know that that's how I felt. Like there was always this, the other shoe is going to drop
yeah,
feeling that it's like, I got to get while the getting is good. I got to work hard because at any moment I'm going to be disrupted at any moment. Right. And so there's that sense of let me just keep on grinding. But this isn't define who I am. This is just me responding to the environment that I grew up in or that I'm working in.
yeah, absolutely. I am who I am. My work doesn't define me. And it's taken me, I can't tell you how long to get to that realization. But to your pointed question, I am a workaholic. And I like to say I'm a recovering workaholic. Although, if my team was here, they would kind of do a little bit of a side eye at me. But it's always something that I'm working on, and I share that openly because I tell my teams or people that I'm like even my family, I need you to hold me accountable to that
Yeah.
because it's something I still struggle with, and I think it comes from my upbringing, right? Immigrant people, come, you got to come hard, come here, you got to work hard. It's that constant grit and grind, but it's exhausting
Mm.
and it's not sustainable. right? So you need to know who you are, focus on the things that are meaningful, that are passionate to you, not somebody else's dream.
Mm. So how did you come to redefine success in your life?
Yeah, so it's come over time. So as I mentioned, the old definition was built on external validations, the praises, all the things that I've kind of mentioned before. Now it's rooted on myself.
Mm.
Um, and I often haven't put myself first, but I'm just, again, in a completely different headspace. And I'm more comfortable sharing my experiences, my failures, and my vulnerability. And it's been an area that I've actually struggled with. So let me give you an example. So many years ago, I was applying for this leadership role. And I think I'd applied like two or three times and I didn't get it. I had the technical experience. I knew the systems. I knew the processes. I knew the teams. I knew everything upside down, inside out. I did all of my homework around that. And I didn't get the job. And I was like, well, what the hell? So I went and got some feedback. And the feedback that I got was, well, you have all these things, you're right, but we don't know how to read you. You don't share anything about yourself. What we
Mm.
know about you is surface level. I sat with that for a bit because I'm boring. Nothing about my story is interesting, but I had to sit with that for a bit. And I
Yeah.
know I keep falling back to. So how I was raised, I could actually hear this very loudly from my mom. Don't share anything about yourself,
Yeah.
right? That's your business. You need to like hold that to your chest. But what I found as I continue to navigate in the leadership space is people want to know. And the moment that I started to open that door and
Mm.
share my failures, maybe I've gone too far. So maybe it's now probably too much. I'm probably doing TMI. Um, the more that I found that I'm able to navigate now in different spaces, I'm able to build strategies with my team because and I say this to my team again, like your business relationships start with the personal relationships. People want to know who you are. They want to know what you believe in. And so once you're able to do that, like I've been able to navigate in some very difficult waters. And so I share that with everyone. Like that was a struggle for me. I thought, like, what the hell? But the moment that I've started to do that, like again, there's been a huge shift.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely resonate with that too. Spent the whole life guarded, hiding, and it was like that was the form of protection. It's like, okay, to navigate through these spaces, whether it was school or work, hiding, playing in the background, not caught, don't raise your hand, just go undetected because when I received attention, it was usually not good attention. It wasn't the
Correct.
attention that I wanted. And so
Yeah,
when I went out into the workplace, now I was so used to flying under the radar that the good work wasn't being seen, that I wasn't being recognized, that I wasn't memorable. And so it was such a hard process opening up and becoming comfortable with that idea of exposing myself because I spent a lot of time building a lot of walls up in professional spaces and putting on a certain professional face, and it was like, oh, I have to open that up. And when I did that, despite the pain of it, it's what has helped accelerate things so much and allowed me to go into spaces and occupy places that are kind of like designed for me, right? Because I was open, because I am bringing all of these unique aspects of myself, that it now created opportunities that never would have presented themselves before.
absolutely.
That's incredible. So how do you find that, with each, say, like new role that you're taking, is this definition of success changing? Like, how often is it change? Is it ever evolving? Are you consciously thinking about like what does success look for me this year? How do you kind of break that down? And do you measure that success? You'd be like, am I still honoring what I set out to do, or is it shifting? How do you kind of uh, do you put like a framework around success?
Yeah, so I used to over engineer it and overanalyze. I don't do New Year's resolutions and all that stuff anymore. I kind of like the wheels of life in
Uh-huh.
those spectrums. So, spiritual, financial, kind of all of that. And it starts with me. And so my biggest challenge has been because I've been like I'm leading teams and I'm a caregiver and I'm a mother and a wife, the me part of it has started to kind of take a back seat. And so it starts with letting go the need of approval. I center my decisions around, I stop centering my decisions about around what other people think. It's about what I think. So success for me about it is about intentional choices. Leading, coaching, all of those things, but with boundaries. And the
Mm,
boundaries piece has been critical because I have often been challenged with saying no.
mm,
Sure, I can do it. Yep, I'm gonna take it on and take it on. And then I'm left with, again, stress and burnout, right? So I'm very cautious. And again, I have to reel myself in every now and again, but I'm very cautious. I'm very intentional about those boundaries that I set.
mm. Yeah, you bring up a good point with boundaries, right? Because I think often when you are operating from a position of fear and worry, to assert your boundaries feels like one of the most threatening things that you can do, right?
Yeah.
To say no in the workplace, to say no to your boss, all of that stuff. So, what was that process of building up your tolerance to be firm in those boundaries? And how did you become clear on where those boundaries actually are?
A lot of inward reflection, a lot of sort of exploring some of the failures that I've made. And when I was in those stressful times and anxiety, kind of looking back to say, well, how did I get here?
Mm,
Right. And really being very introspective about it was me. And also, again, very transparently sharing, I often wanting to please has been a challenge for me. And so I've had to let some of those things go because otherwise you just end up and then it becomes I'm not able to do the output of the work that I know that I can do because I've taken on all of these things, not because of capacity, right? It's just because I just didn't have the ability to be able to do all of these things and do them well.
mm. And you say letting it go, which can make it sound okay, it's very simple. I just let it go. But we know a lot of those hard, ingrained habits and things, how we were raised and our defaults can be very challenging. Do you have any tips or recommendations on what that process of letting go actually looks like?
Yeah, it's hard. And I'm still navigating through it, but I'm saying no,
Mm,
and feeling comfortable with saying no. And also like I mean, as a leadership professional, like I again have a great team, so I'm delegating personally. I'm able to ask for help like in terms of like caregiving for my mother, and so those were things that were often challenging for me because the superwoman syndrome for me was a real thing. Like I
mm,
thought that I had 10 capes on my back, and I was navigating and doing it all, and at the expense of my health. And so those are things that I've said that I will never do again.
mm.
So I don't know if I've answered your question. It's been a combination and it's been an evolution, and I'm still working through it. I have a lot of people that I work with that I'm also helping them through that as well, but it needs to start with you. Like you can't, again, I can't rely on somebody else to do those things that I should be doing for myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's an important thing. It's like I don't think you ever finished, right? You
No.
just continue to work on it and develop these things, and your definition of success, your boundaries are ever evolving with as your context changes, as you evolve and get older. So I think always holding on to that. That's not a destination that you reach. It's really a process that you embed in your life from now until forever. So, once you've defined this version of success for yourself and you're trying to set these new boundaries and create this new definition of success, how did you begin to walk that path? How did you take ownership of it? And when the pressures of people started saying, "Oh yeah, you're trying to set boundaries with me," and they're trying to push back on those things, how did you stand your ground to really assert yourself in terms of this is what my version of success is. These are my boundaries. This is what works for me. When everyone else was still trying to convince you otherwise.
Well, it kind of goes back to that question about, success is being defined by other people,
Mm,
right? And so I've been very intentional about how I'm defining that success and sharing it openly. And again, that's part of that transparency as well. And quite frankly, not caring if somebody doesn't understand it because it's not
mm,
really for somebody else to understand. It's something that's personal to me. And that's why I always say, again, to people I'm working with or with my teams, your success is going to be your success. It's not somebody else's. And stop chasing like FOMO, what everybody else is doing. That may not work for you.
And did the pressures that you experienced from family versus your work colleagues versus maybe just, on LinkedIn and the societal pressure on there, can you talk about like, did you experience different types of pushback or challenges within each of those realms and how did you tackle that?
Yeah. So I'm the youngest of six. And so if you talk to my siblings, they would say that growing up, I was always very quiet. But then somewhere around 14, like a completely different Michelle sort of stepped out.
Yeah.
And so it was for me about finding my voice. And so once I found my voice, I just felt comfortable. And it's funny because I say to them, being the youngest of six, I actually feel like I'm the eldest because there's been a lot of things that I actually just kind of take on and do because I just feel like it's not happening.
Hmm.
So that's from a family sort of perspective. I would say that with my teams again, surrounding myself with people that don't have the skills that I don't have, like that's very powerful because you need to know who you are. And you need to know what are your skills and what are the skills that you don't have, right? Again, doing that inventory and being able to have those teams to kind of to work with to sort of bring that in. And then there's always the societal pressure of again the accolades and kind of wanting to do more. And that's just stuff that I no longer worry about.
So like dealing with any sort of social media, images of success, comparison, do you feel
So
like you're
I
past all that or?
so it's funny because I say this personally. I'm old. I say this all the time. And so I did not grow up with social media and I find it overwhelming. So I take breaks because you're watching these, and again, this is my opinion, that are it's almost like a false narrative. It's you're only getting one version. You don't know what's happening at that moment, at that time. So I find it exhausting. On the other spectrum, I do also use social media to research and to learn. So you need to kind of pick your poison and you need to take everything that you're seeing online with a grain of salt.
Hmm, okay. And what about you've mentioned a few times like the being the only one in the room. How did that change, I guess, your process or how you thought about asserting your boundaries? Did that add a level of fear and worry, concern? And have you experienced any sort of pushback for, asserting those boundaries and holding on to what it is that you want?
Yeah, it's funny. It's been my lived and shared experience that I have obviously lived through and haven't really spoken about it a lot. Um, so it was fearful. It was challenging. It brought up a lot of doubt. I'm the only one. I'm looking around. I don't see anybody that looks like me. Often, not only the only, minority, but often woman. Like this is earlier in my career. And so not seeing, somebody that looks like me. So it brought up a lot of doubt. And, it's funny, I do actually have a story that I do want to share. So in one of my, again, previous roles, I got recently promoted into a position that I really worked really hard to get into. And so it's quite a leadership role. And when my boss at the time was making the announcement, so this is about in a room of about 10 to 15 people. A gentleman stood up in the room and said that Michelle got this position because she was Black.
Mm,
And I wanted the ground to open up. I was so embarrassed. I felt like I've worked hard to get here. But oddly enough, I actually wasn't upset or annoyed with his comment. I was upset that there was no other response in the room. It
mm,
was the other people. And that saying when people show you who you are, you need to believe them. Like it was something that kind of stuck in the back of my head. I've actually never told that story before. It's just something that I've always kept. And so that was extremely difficult for me, but it led to me again wanting to push and prove, but it did stray off into the spectrum of burnout because I just like I felt like I got to show this man, I got to show these people that didn't stand up for me, all of this stuff. And so it was a very difficult time for me. But what I will say now, and I'm very pleased to share, completely different time now. I feel very much representative. in terms of the organization that I work at right now. I feel that I belong. It's very diversified. I am able to do my personal best work on my natural, authentic self. So I don't forget those experiences. I remember them and they make me who I am.
So how I just need to know what the end of that story. So like you're sitting in that meeting, they say that. What was the next?
We left. Everybody left. We left,
Everyone
and
just got up and left.
no, I left. I walked out to my car, and then I had people coming back to me and saying like, "Oh, Michelle, like I can't believe," and I'm like, But you said nothing. I
Hmm.
didn't feel supported. You absolutely said nothing. So you either believe what this person was saying, or you didn't want to vocalize it. Like it was awful.
And so what was it like to continue to work in that environment? How did you
It
navigate through
it was toxic. I'm
that?
not gonna lie. It was toxic. It was difficult. It did eventually change. The culture started to kind of change, but that, culture changing is not an overnight thing. But I was so determined, right? But it didn't make for a good personal experience for me, and I felt that it was difficult for me to navigate.
I know a lot of people have been through similar types of experiences to what you're sharing. Upon reflection, do you have any insights or advice for somebody who might find themselves in a similar type of position? Maybe how to take care of yourself in those moments and just to be able to check in with yourself, but also to speak up or, how someone should address those types of
Yeah.
comments that are made to them.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I was crippled by fear. I was embarrassed.
Mm,
Now I would absolutely speak up. It wasn't right. Not only for the individual, but for the people in the room. That's not about feeling belonging. That's not about teamwork. That's not about organizational values. It's not about anything. And so, my advice would be to speak up. I always have to say, nobody could tell you how you felt. That and how that made me feel was absolutely awful.
mm,
So, if I had to do that again, it would be a completely different outcome. I would have shared how I felt and what I'm expecting to kind of see in terms of a different sort of outcome or at least a follow-up. So
mm.
it wouldn't happen again. So it would be so that would be my best advice. But I was just so taken back. I couldn't even I didn't know what to do. And my it was fight or flight. And that's what I did. Like I just felt like I had to get the hell out
Yeah.
and then come back and hopefully that everything would be gone. Of course it wasn't gone. It was just
Yeah.
like, everything was underneath the carpet, right?
How, talking again about the stability, and the value that I think a lot of us have placed on stability. How do you reconcile knowing when it's time to leave, right? Because a lot of times we'll stay in that bad position. It's toxic, but it's stable. It's toxic, but the benefits. Oh, it's like I know the next place is going to be just the same. It's like this everywhere. And we come up with all of these reasons to stay put. How have you assessed like when is it time to leave? And maybe if you have stories of knowing that you've overstayed your welcome in certain places, and what were some of those signs that you should have acted on earlier if you had known what you know now?
I would say if your values don't align. So um, if you're not feeling respected, you don't feel like you have a voice, your work is not being recognized. And again, however way you determine recognition, because it means very different things for people, but I always start with your values. If you feel that those things are not aligned, you're not able to grow and develop, like all of those things that are important to you, you're getting stagnant in a role. It's time to move on, but sometimes not necessarily out of the organization. And so that's where I feel that people just like out of the fire and they go right into the pot. It could be that you're in the wrong role. And so I'll give you an example. I was working for an organization. I've always led people. Then I said, oh, you know what? I actually want to do projects. It's a skill that I want to develop. I work with a lot of PMs. And I did it, and it wasn't for me. Now, I use project management skills in my current role, but I missed the leadership part. And I realized, like, crap, this is not for me. And that's
Mm.
part of the, evolution and of development. So if you're in that situation, your role, your values, all those things are not aligned, it could be an opportunity to look for within the organization, depending on if there are opportunities. But I would say that if a core value is not aligned, it's probably time for you to leave. Like you need to kind of draw the line, whatever that line will be for you.
Yeah. Okay. I just take a quick second to pause for the cause and just reach out to the audience and see, if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat, you can drop it in the Q&A. We'll keep the conversation going, but feel free to start dropping in any questions that you may have, or if anything you want Michelle to expand on, go ahead and drop that down there. Um, so what kind of support did you need to make these changes, to establish the boundaries? Was it all just internal? Did you have people around you who helped you to define the success for yourself, to assert these boundaries for yourself, to give you the confidence to speak up and to find your voice in the workplace and to find your power in being the only one? Can you talk about what that external support and what you leaned on, what helped you, mentally, emotionally to walk that walk?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for me, it started with the support of my family. I have a extremely supportive family, very close knit, and there was a period of my career where I did have stress and burnout, and I would even add in anxiety, right? Like I was working insane hours, feeling that I had to kind of get everything done, superwoman syndrome, like all of that. And it got to a point where my family said, like, if something happens to you, the organization is going to miss you, but you will obviously be replaced, but we can't live without you.
Mm,
And that was very powerful. So it started with the support, certainly at home. But I've also been blessed with really great mentors and sponsors. So the story that I told earlier, where I didn't get the role and I got the feedback that we couldn't read you, like that came from a really great mentor. They said like you hold things to your chest. We know nothing about you. We know that you're married and you have children, and like literally that was it.
mm,
That was like some 360 really direct feedback and like blind spot feedback, right? Things that I just wasn't aware of. So I've really had some great mentors and still have them today. And then I've also had some really powerful sponsors that were able to talk about me and my development and what I can do and bring to the table at those conversations while I wasn't in the room.
mm.
So I've been blessed to have that throughout my career. It didn't happen all at once. It's been a little bit of a stumbling block, and I didn't have it didn't happen, as I mentioned, all at once, but it has been something that has helped me to be successful and helped me to propel.
So can you break down like kind of the mentorships and sponsors that you've had? Are those things that you actively pursued? Did you just stumble upon them? How did you form those relationships and how do you do it? Like what advice do you have to somebody who's maybe just getting started? What do they look for? How do you ask for these things? How does it
Yeah,
work?
all great questions. So mentors for me sort of gave me guidance, and it has been an evolution. So on the onset, I started to look for people that had the same skill sets that I had, same career paths. So it could be like same, right? So we're having a conversation and we could be, oh yeah, and kind of bounce off of that. But then over time, I actually started to gravitate to mentors that have a completely different skill set,
Mm,
have mentors that have a skill that I don't have so I can learn, different industries, different genders, different ethnicities. Like I started to kind of expand that. But at first, I felt that I needed to have a safe space.
yeah.
And that's where I started. And so it wasn't until over time that I started to go into the other areas. And the same thing with sponsorship as well. But now I'm very comfortable with looking for people that are completely different and have had different experiences because I felt it's been a very reciprocal sort of process
Mm,
where I'm sharing and they're learning and vice versa.
yeah, no,
So
I
I would
love
say,
that.
so
Yeah.
just back to your question, I would say like you have to know what you want and you have to not be afraid. And part of that, like again, right, instilling some beliefs, like I didn't want to ask for help. which is why I had received that feedback earlier. Like, oh yeah, I know the systems, I know the processes, I know, but there was a lot that I didn't learn. And there was no way that I would get that feedback if I didn't go out and seek it.
Mm. Yeah, I love what you're saying. It's like, it started off by finding somebody like me, right? And it's just like, okay, you've kind of walked a path similar to mine. Can I find comfort and refuge under your wing, right? And then it started to becoming, oh, I want to grow here. I want to grow there. Let me go out and find people. But getting to that point, it seems like getting comfortable, right? Finding that safe space where I can talk about some of those things that allowed me to expand my horizons and connect with other people in various aspects.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say that the best lesson that I've learned is to work on yourself. Um, so, being a leader, wife, mother, all the like the different roles that I play, and I mentioned this earlier, like myself always took a back seat, but the biggest lesson that you do is to work on yourself, however way you define that for yourself.
Hmm. So when you're saying like for mentorship, you start with a vision of what it is that you want for yourself, right? So if I'm here, I'm like, you know what, I want to explore project management. So are you saying you would go out, find someone in that field and be like, look, I'm interested in project management. Can I have some, meet up for coffee sometime and discuss? Is that kind of what it look
Yeah,
like for
but
you?
it's also a little bit deeper, right? So I'm interested in project management. So what's the role? Bless you. What's the skills that I'm going to need? What are the things that are not? Because people, again, you have to ask the question. You're the ones kind of seeking the information. What do you not like about the role? What are some of the challenges? What are some of the pitfalls? You're the one, if it's you're wanting to seek out a mentor, you're the one driving that conversation. You're the one driving those meetings. So you need to schedule the meetings, you need to come prepared. It's not just to sit here and drink coffee. Like there should be some, what is it that you hope to get at? What does a successful mentoring session look for like for you
Mm.
after that meeting? And to some extent, it is about a fit as well because this person needs to make time for you, have the time to do it. There should be a fit that they're going to give you feedback. You need to kind of establish all those things that you want in that mentoring session as well.
And then so how does that differ for sponsorship? Well, so maybe just for those on the call, can you delineate between mentorship and sponsorship? And then how do you go about seeking sponsorship or how
Yeah.
have you
So
gone
yeah,
about
so sponsorship is for those individuals that will give you access, whether and it's not always about the trajectory to a different role. But it's about those people that are going to speak to you. So for example, I report to a senior VP who reports to the COO. And so I would want definitely my boss, but my COO to be talking about me in terms of another opportunity. So she would be at meetings really where that I wouldn't be, that would be able to kind of give me access to know what roles are kind of coming down the pipe. And
it?
so it's seeking that sponsorship. And so I've been very bold. I've become bolder in my career to seek out those sponsors and to have like I have skip level meetings with my manager once removed talking about the things that are I'm passionate about and the things that I want to have access to. You need to be again create those spaces and be comfortable to ask for things that you're looking for. Again, I've navigated and have conversations with my manager first to let them know that this is something that I'm looking to do and also to get their advice as well.
Okay, excellent. Someone asked, can you share more about the distinction between managing and leadership, and what is your leadership style?
Very interesting. So when I started my career, managing used to be about I have the title, I have lead people, and the people need to do what I'm doing. They need to do what I'm asking them to do because that's what I thought it was. I'm going there to just I'm being the manager, and that's not what it is. I've learned that leadership is about inspiring people to do their personal best. It goes back to the point that I made earlier. It's actually nothing to do with me at all. It's inspiring people to do their personal best, bringing about out the best in them as well. So that's how I would make that distinction. managing to me is a little bit old school that you're wanting people to follow you, regardless as to the path that you're actually bringing them, versus inspiring people to do their personal best, inspiring them to actually help the organization or whatever it is that you're trying to cultivate.
Mm. And I guess how would you describe your leadership style? Like how do you go about inspiring people to do their best?
Yes, I would say that my team would say that I'm fair but firm. But I would say that they would see me as a servant leader. I'm here to help others to achieve their personal best. I'm here to bring out the best in individuals. They would say that I'm very direct, but I lead from the heart. And so I'm here to help others. I'm very focused on strategy and helping the culture, but I really strongly believe it starts with the people. So you can build a marketing plan, a sales plan, but in order to execute those plans, it needs to start with the people. So if you inspire and motivate, like there's just so much that could happen.
Mm. What advice would you give to a young Black professional who wants to take on leadership roles, who haven't had that experience? What advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would suggest that they start with some inventory first. And so what are the strengths that they bring to the table? And maybe seek out some feedback. Again, sharing the stories I shared earlier about my blind spots. I think we always want to focus on our strengths, but you need to also know about the opportunities and the blind spots as well. Leadership's not always about that upward trajectory of promotions. I've taken up positions that were, kind of aligned to the same role. I've actually taken positions that were what we would deem to be a step below because I needed to get that sort of skill set. What we talked about earlier, seek out a mentor to help you and really start off first, not what I did. Start off with people that are not same to you. That's where you're going to get the biggest learning.
Mm.
It's a comfortable spot to have somebody that's the same, has gone through the same path and the same experience, but there's so much learning when you're able to work with people that don't look like you and who have had different experiences. I just really feel that that's the strongest area of opportunity.
Okay. And someone was asking, do you offer mentorship and
I do.
coaching or coaching? Yes.
Yes, yes, I do. I do. So either contact me through LinkedIn or through hello at mindhavengroup.com. I'm happy to connect with anyone.
So no excuses that if you're on this
Yeah,
call, you at least have one
yeah,
mentor in your
absolutely.
corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And so how has I guess maybe what's next for you in your journey? What's that next evolution of success, of career, of balance? What's next?
Yeah, it's great question. I ask myself that question all the time. Um, it's really about balance for me. Um, it's not the upward trajectory. I'm tapping into my superpower. I am a networker. I build strong relationships. I'm passionate about coaching, passionate about mentoring. I'm passionate about leading people. That's why I've stayed in the roles that I've had. Like I'm extremely passionate about that. And so I want to be able to continue to learn because I don't have all the answers. I'm not going to profess that I have all the answers. And so I really like working with people where I can continue to learn, but I'm on this quest about sharing my experiences and helping people navigate through transition,
Mm,
whether that be new leadership careers, careers outside of the organization, inside of the organization, life stuff that happens. I'm really passionate about that.
mm. Someone asked, has what has been the most rewarding aspect of your leadership journey?
Um, that's a great question. It has been helping people to get where they have defined that they want to go.
Mm,
Um, well, although I've like led many teams, it's like there's many stories, individual stories that just like make me pause and just warm my heart.
mm. Yeah, that's beautiful. So, as you've gone down this journey of redefining your success, establishing your boundaries, are you glad of where you are now? Have you reached where you hope you would be in terms of that feelings of fulfillment, success, boundaries, balance? Has all the work helped? Has it led you to the point where you're trying to be?
Yeah, I'm extremely happy at where I'm at right now. The balance, there's a lot of things I do outside of work. Like I work out and like, do different things that are important and meaningful for me. Tapping into my superpower, like, mentoring and coaching is very passionate. It's been something that I've been dodging for a while, but there's been this sort of calling. So that's very passionate for me. I work for a great organization. I'm able to do my personal best, enjoy working with my team and the organization. So that's really comforting. I feel supported. I feel valued. I feel heard. So that's really important. So I'm in a good, good spot.
So if you could take, a lesson that you would have told your younger self or you would tell to other people maybe just getting started in a career or maybe just starting in this journey of, taking back their career into their own hands, like how would you summarize all of that you've learned over these 2 decades to, what's the thing that you would want everybody to know on their career journey?
It's a couple things. Don't wait for somebody else to validate your vision. Again, lessons that I've learned. Don't silence your voice in order to make others feel comfortable. And so I go back to that story that I shared, right? Like I just felt that I wasn't able to be comfortable to share how I was feeling. And the journey doesn't have to look like somebody else's. It's
Mm.
your journey. And then one more, failure. Lean into it, right? Like we're not all perfect. Again, that's another syndrome that I had. Like I had to be perfect at it. Like lean into it. Greatest lessons I've learned is through the failures.
Mm. So this whole, how we started the conversation of perfection, perfectionism, workaholic, keep going, and now through all of that coming to the realization that actually no, failure is one of my greatest assets. It's not being perfect. I'm learning more, I'm growing more. It's enabling me, it's humanizing me for the people I'm leading. All of those things that you try so hard to hide or
Right.
tried so hard to minimize are actually the things that help elevate you. Isn't that
Hang on.
fascinating?
Hang on. It's like going full circle, right?
Yeah, wow. Someone wants to know what's one word you would use to describe your career journey?
That's a great question. Resilience. Resilience.
And do you feel like that was developed? Is that just innate in you? Talk about resilience and how you've kind of built that up, or how the role that resilience has played for you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually feel it's innate within me. My family has gone through a lot. The personal challenges that I personally have had to deal with. It's been that resilience that has actually pulled me through. It's an inner strength that I actually didn't think that I had, and I actually feel it's actually one of my superpowers. I've been very resilient. There's been a lot of things that I've been able to do that I thought that I couldn't do, and actually started to sort of self-doubt, but that resilience helped to pull me through.
Mm. Okay, well, there you have it. I know we're coming up on the hour. This was a fantastic conversation. So grateful for you opening up, sharing your story, sharing untold stories with us. I know, the people on this call, people who are going to be watching the recording will truly be touched by that. I'm sure they're going to see, just like I did, they'll see myself through your journey. It's really powerful to see that full circle moment. A lot of those things that we hide from or we run away from, right? Just like we want to mask, we want to hide behind the walls, but then those walls end up being our own prison, right? Like we want to protect ourselves from all of those things, but what we're using to protect ourselves end up being the things that end up doing more damage to us. And so it's beautiful to hear kind of that full circle that you've taken and the lessons that you've learned and given us some such active and tangible things that we could implement into our lives. So thank you so much for
No, thank
everything you've
you.
shared.
I think I really enjoyed it. The hour actually went by very quickly. So thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Is there any final word you wanted to share with anybody?
You know what? Again, trust yourself. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's a journey, and don't let anybody else define your own success.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, we want to invite you out to our check-ins. We have on the third Wednesday of the month. We just dropped the link down here. So we have our check-in on the 21st, May 21st at 8 a.m. and then on May 28th at 6 p.m. So the links to register for those are there. If you want to come, share stories, find mentors, find people to connect with, share your stories. We also shared the link for our Mental Health for Success program. And so we have partnered with a clinical therapist office to provide the members of this community with 4 free sessions of therapy. That's 4 free sessions of therapy to help us to navigate through some of those things. We're talking about building our endurance and setting boundaries and tearing down those walls that we've built up. And that is something that therapy is great for. And these are all therapists that are racialized therapists that specialize in these types of things, workplace and race related issues. And so thank you so much. So you can subscribe to there. I see Robin, the links, Sasha had just shared them in that list there. Did everyone make? Oh, Sasha, your message just went to hosts and panelists. If you can drop that to everybody. So we'll drop those links so you can register for those 4 free sessions. And then after the 4 free sessions, if you want to continue with that therapist, instead of $130 per session, it's only $60 through coming through us. So it's a huge value for the community that we can all tap into. So very grateful for all of you and hope that you find these resources helpful. I just shared the links again for you. And I also shared Michelle's LinkedIn. So if you want to get in contact with her, you'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, so much. We hope that you have a wonderful day and hope that you've been blessed by this message. And we'll see you next time.